Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome, everyone. We can get started. Welcome to today's session. Today, we have a very exciting new concept that we cannot wait to share with you. We'll go through the value of DataSnipper for the different roles in audit firms with live demos tailored to each role. So in today's session, we will show you the value of DataSnipper for the preparer, reviewer, and the partner, which are the core roles in an audit engagement team. Before I start with the agenda today, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Hande, and I lead the product marketing team here at DataSnipper, and I will be one of your hosts. So before each live demo, I'll go over the value for different roles we usually see in an audit and how DataSnipper can add critical value to the day-to-day of the people in these roles. Later on, our product experts will demonstrate this value add with the most common use cases we see in audit firms. To wrap up, we'll have some time for Q&A. So joining today's session, I have with me Marco from our partners at the GGI Alliance, as well as industry and product experts Sangeeta and Edwin. Before they joined DataSnipper, both Sangeeta and Edwin had an extensive audit experience, and currently as transformation manager, they have brought great value in shaping how DataSnipper is changing the way of working in the audit and finance world. So during the live demo, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A section or chat section of Zoom. Before we move forward with the live demos, I'll let everyone do a quick introduction of themselves. Marco, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Marco Izzo. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at GGI Global Alliance. We're pleased to see so many participants today at this DataSnipper webinar organized in collaboration with GGI. We've been partnering with DataSnipper since 2023, and we know that a number of our member firms are already using their solutions, which we're very pleased to hear about. So for audit professionals, it's natural to consider solutions which can help automating processes and activities. And DataSnipper helps firms exactly with that, as it is an intelligent audit platform within Excel that accelerates the speed and quality of the firm's audits. During today's webinar, speakers from DataSnipper will demonstrate how their tool can be efficiently utilized, and will highlight also efficiencies and value creation across different user roles, from the preparers up to reviewers and management. So without further ado, I would like to thank our hosts and DataSnipper as a whole, and I'll leave the floor to everybody else to introduce themselves and kickstart the webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Hande. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for taking your time to attend this webinar session. I'm Sangeeta Ramesh. I'm working as Transformation Manager at DataSnipper. Before joining DataSnipper, I was working as an external auditor for 8 years. So now I'm bridging the gap between the audit and the technology. And yeah, I'm happy to be part of this webinar. And I definitely hope you get some insight at the end of the session on how DataSnipper can be used in each role.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and welcome everyone. My name is Edwin, also Transformation Manager here at DataSnipper. Before joining the company, I was also an external auditor working for Deloitte and KPMG, but I always had an interest for IT, so that's how I ended up here. And I can be more excited to show the value for the reviewers here in today's webinar.
Thank you all. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's go over now the high-level value of DataSnipper for the preparer in an audit. As a preparer, DataSnipper greatly simplifies the data extraction process. You can use snips, form extraction, and document matching to conduct the testing procedures and structure them directly within Excel. This saves massive amount of time by reducing the amount of manual and repetitive tasks to be done by the preparer. But let's see this value in action from my colleague Sangeeta.
Yes, thank you, Hande. DataSnipper has significantly improved the efficiency of preparers' work. As a preparer, I find the tool to be extremely valuable, offering a range of features that enhance my documentation process. In addition to its powerful automation capabilities, the manual snipping features also contribute to a more streamlined approach. The cross-reference capabilities of DataSnipper play a crucial role in simplifying the entire process. It effortlessly allows the preparer to identify exception within the work papers. The tool provides a comprehensive overview of work paper completeness, highlighting both completed elements and outstanding tasks. With the assistance of validation and exception snip, as a preparer, I can seamlessly integrate flags for my reviewer's attention. Utilizing validation snip enables preparer to clearly mark and confirm the validation of specific sections in the work paper. On the other hand, exception snip empower to easily communicate concerns or provide comments to the reviewer for better understanding. To illustrate the tool's functionality, let's delve into a couple of examples. So let me share my screen. Perfect. Firstly, let's explore the purchases walkthrough documentation process. And I've already imported my supporting documents into my Excel workbook as it's visible from the document viewer. And I've also extracted the first information from proposal with the help of text snip validation and also the sum snip. With the help of validation snip, I've validated the signature within the proposal. Now, in order to update the required fields from the remaining supporting documents, I'm going to just leverage on the search and snip functionality that is available within the document viewer, because it directly pinpoints me to the exact page and exact source where these information can be found. So as you can see, it has listed out the result of the information that we are looking. So in this use case, it's hardware BV, which is the supplier name. And by just hovering over it, it takes me to the respective source within the document viewer. And it also suggests if I want to snip this information. So by just clicking on the suggestion, the information is extracted and also cross-referenced. So I'm going to snip it. Perfect. We have it within few clicks. And I'm going to do a similar check for the total amount. We have it within the order confirmation, invoice, and bank statement. And within the bank statement, in order to flag that the payment is validated, I'm going to use validation snip and draw a snip on the payment details. And there is a green V that is extracted by default. I think most of you already know about it. Either you can retain this green V as it is, or I'm going to customize the content so that it gives more clarity for my reviewer. Perfect. So the payment is validated. So once the reviewer opens my workbook, he knows or she knows that the information is validated from the supporting document. Similarly, let's do a quantity check. I would expect this quantity to be present in order confirmation invoice, but apparently it's just in order confirmation and not an invoice. And in order to further investigate, I'm going to click on my invoice, which with the cross-referencing, I can easily go to my invoice. And it seems that within the invoice, the quantity is 50 times, whereas in proposal and order confirmation, it's 42 times. So as there is an exception, in order to flag that exception, not only for the reviewer, even for myself to further investigate with the client, I'm going to use exception snip. And by just drawing a snip, there is a red X. But in order to make sure it's more clear, if I get back or if I refer back my work paper, I'm going to customize this content saying the quantity is inconsistent with proposal and format it a little bit. And yeah, now it provides more clarity on what is the exception noted and what needs to be investigated further with my client. And this work paper is already ready for my first review. So when I send it to the reviewer, by just clicking on each, it takes them to the respective source. And with the help of flagging of validation and exception snip, they actually know what is an exception that is noted and what are the information that are validated. I'm going to quickly pause for a few seconds or few minutes just to check if you have any questions that needs to be addressed at this point.
Just one question, Sangeeta. So there was a question about the search bar. So can you put any information on the search bar, or you need to select a cell to populate the search bar?
Yes, that's a very good question, Edwin. Actually, the search and snip functionality within the document viewer works both the ways. So if you just click on one of the cell, the information within that cell or the content within that cell is automatically populated in the search bar. Or you can also customize the content saying approval, and you can also customize the content and also look for those information. It will list out all the information, not only from the document that we have open in the document viewer, but all documents that are imported.
All right. Thank you, Sangeeta. And just one other question appeared now. How is the signature validated?
Perfect. So we have a signature. Let's say we have a control in place that the proposal has to be signed by P.A. Smith, assuming P.A. Smith is one of the authorized signatory. So in order to do that, I'm going to use validation snip. Let me delete this snip. Perfect. So I'm going to use a validation snip in order to flag the signature, but by default, there is a green V that is extracted because it flags that it's validated. But in order to provide more clarity, I'm going to customize the content of the cell and mention that signature is validated. And now by this, we also making sure the controls are in place, that the proposal are reviewed and signed. So yes, I hope this answers your questions. One of your questions.
Yes, that was all. Thank you, Sangeeta.
Perfect. Thank you, Edwin. Awesome. Let's move to our next example. And this might be a familiar example for most of them if you have attended any introduction to DataSnipper or automation session. But in today's session, let's go to a next step in order to see how we can flag the exceptions or the information validated to the reviewer, or also insert a comment in order to communicate or reach out to the reviewers. So we are performing an expense testing here. I've selected around 43 samples, and we have to match these samples with the respective invoices and the bank statements. So without DataSnipper, you have to manually go through each and every invoices individually and also a lengthy bank statement and then update the key fields. But with DataSnipper, like within few clicks or within few minutes, you have the information extracted, which is ready for you to use your professional judgment in order to validate and conclude from there on. So in order to do that, I'm going to use document matching from the automation ribbon. I've already set up the document matching structure, so I'm just going to click on continue document matching. If you're not familiar or if you need more details about the document matching steps and how it works, please feel free to reach out to us. We can assign you to our DS Academy and also the centralized webinars to understand more detail about these features. So document matching is a 3-step procedure. I've already selected my sample data. I've selected my folders. I've already imported the invoices and bank statements. And I've also made sure that these are the output columns where I would expect my results to be documented. So all I have to do now is to just click on match all rows. And yes, the vouching procedures are being performed. Awesome. Perfect. As you can see, we have it within like few minutes. And we have few blank cells. Most of them are already familiar as well. I guess that the blank cells is due to because there is no exact match for the information that we are looking for. But with the help of advanced features, we can already eliminate any trivial inconsistencies or trivial inaccuracies that are noted. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to document matching again. And by clicking on 3 dots, these are the advanced features that are available. I'm going to enable fuzzy text matching for the client name, assuming there might be small spelling inconsistencies between the client name that we are looking for and the client name that is mentioned in the invoices, which is trivial. So in order to eliminate that or address that already, I'm going to enable that. And I'm going to make my invoice number as a mandatory field, assuming invoice number is a unique number, and I would expect that to be present in all the invoices and the relevant bank payments. And assuming there might be some rounding of errors, I'm going to set a difference threshold up to 1. And there are blue flags, blue eye flagged, especially for my reviewer, because when I send this work paper to my reviewer, he or she can see that there are some advanced features that are enabled that needs to be reviewed. and click on match all rows and give permission to override the data because it's performing the procedure again, but this time it includes these enablement. And this can also be used for like even 4-way or 5-way match where it involves purchase orders, goods delivery, receipts, delivery notes. Perfect. So we have the work performed, and as you can see, the number of blank cells or the empty cells have been reduced. It's because we enable the advanced features, but we still have few empty cells. So let's further investigate that. So if I just click on the third sample, I see that the date is not extracted, and it's also because the date as per the invoice is 14th April, whereas the date as per my sample is 13th April. So there is a day difference as it's not an exact match. It was not extracted, but I'm going to flag this because it needs to be investigated further, and it seems like the entry was already posted before the invoice was raised or issued. So in order to flag it, I'm going to draw an exception snip. And as I mentioned before, in order to provide more clarity, I'm going to customize the cell content saying inconsistent date to further verify with the client. And when the reviewer sees it, if he just clicks on the cell, it automatically takes him to the exceptions. And let's say after further investigation with the client, they have a policy in place which says the cutoff period for these date differences are 3 days. So in this instance, it is just 1 day, right? Like after further investigation, if we understand that it's just 1 day, what we can also do is by just right-clicking on the snip, I can change this to validation snip because we further investigated, and it presumes like a trial as well if I want to refer it back. And I can also customize the content saying validated with client cutoff policy. So now you have a trial that there was an inconsistency noted, and you further investigated that, and now you change that to a validation snip. And also it provides some more clarity on what are the missing documents. In this case, we have a missing invoice. So I'm just going to highlight that in yellow because when I was an auditor, all the open items and pending items were highlighted in yellow and marked as missing or pending items. So I'm going to mark it as missing invoice. And we do have one example here where the amount is more, the amount difference is more than our rounding off error. And if I just go to the invoice, it seems the amount is not extracted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first use TextSnip in order to extract the amount because I want to know what is the difference that is noted. If this difference ties up, like if it is more than performance materiality, if it leads to an adjustment or not. So as we have a difference of 3,686, assuming it's more than our performance materiality, if it leads to an adjustment, I'm going to change this snip to exception snip in order to flag this exception or inaccuracy that is noted. And I'm going to just copy paste this here. There is an exception snip, and I'm going to flag this because there should be an adjustment posted. So I'm going to customize the content saying exception noted and leads to an audit adjustment. As a preparer, I might not be very familiar about the structure of the audit adjustment that needs to be posted in this situation. So in order to flag that to my reviewer, I'm going to leave a comment. So by just clicking on a comment, I'm going to leave a comment and say, yes, Edwin, can you please assist me in proposing the adjusting entry to fix this difference? So by just clicking on OK, and this work paper is almost ready for the first review. And when Edwin, as a reviewer, opens this work paper, by just clicking on it, it takes him to the respective invoices. Plus, by just clicking on the exception, it takes him to the respective part. And as soon as he comes to that invoice, he sees a comment from me saying, I would need an assistance in proposing the adjustment. And it reduces a lot of back and forth, and he can help me from there. So we also have a similar example where I've posted a comment, like we already reached out to client. So this helps in team collaboration when you post these comments or flag these snips between the team. So this is an expense testing. So I'm just going to quickly pause for few seconds just to see if you have any questions that needs to be addressed.
So there are some great questions, but some of them will be answered during the Q&A slide at the end. And one question just appeared. So will the comments delete if you delete the document but keep the snips?
I'm sorry. So will the comment, sorry, Edwin, can you repeat? Will the comment?
So will the comment disappear if you delete the document but keep the snips within the Excel workbook?
Yes, actually, yeah, that's a very good question. If you want the comment by itself, then I would say you can export the document with the snips and comments. So you have all the copies of the comments within the exported version. But if you want to see the comments within your Excel workbook, even after removing the document, there is no possibility for that. Maybe you can customize the content of these snips with the comment. So it provides, even though you remove the document, you still have the entire comment content within your Excel workbook. But maybe if Edwin, if you have anything to add, yeah, feel free to.
No, I agree with that.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome. So let's go to our last use case. As a preparer, this is one of the user access testing. And let's, for instance, like this is to highlight a point in the management letter. As the preparer, I play a crucial role in identifying potential misstatements or control exceptions in the client's book and processes. During the user access testing, I observed a management override of control issues, specifically in the review sign-offs or logs for users who aren't expected to have review roles. Utilizing DataSnipper, I can easily flag and cross-reference to the source document. So with DataSnipper flagging and cross-referencing, it not only streamlines the review process, but also serves as a lasting documentation beneficial for verifying the resolution of these control exceptions in the next year audits when you start. When you want to go back to the control exceptions that were noted from the management letter, by just click, you can go to the respective document and start your further procedure from there. So overall, DataSnipper proves to be a valuable tool contributing to increased efficiency in my work as a preparer and streamlining tasks for reviewer. So these were the things that I wanted to explain as a preparer. Hande, back to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So now I will share my screen again, and we will talk about the value for reviewers. So for reviewers, having the cross-referencing between the source documents and sample data is a huge advantage of using DataSnipper. They can easily add review notes or make edits to the work made by the preparer directly in Excel. This way of working leaves a high-quality audit trail, and since the review notes are cross-referenced to the relevant evidence, fixing issues is also a rapid process. So this brings a high degree of efficiency and also reducing communication loops. Let's see it now in action with my colleague Edwin.
Thank you, Hande. So yes, as Hande mentioned, the audit process won't stop at the preparer's part. We also bring value to the reviewer as well. I will quickly share my screen. So I will walk you through the work paper that Sangeeta just prepared, and now we will see it from a reviewer's perspective. So the biggest challenge that we face as reviewers is the time pressure, because to review a work paper, we also need to open the supporting documents one by one to be sure that the information that is extracted by the preparer is correct or not. Now, when the cross-references are not created, this can be a very time-consuming process. But now, if a work paper is prepared by DataSnipper, it can significantly reduce the time spent on these work papers. So first, let's check that walkthrough documentation. So here we can see that this work paper is prepared by DataSnipper because we see these colorful cells. So blue means text snip, green validation, red exception, and the yellow the sum snip. Now with these cross-references, every time I click on a cell, you can see that the document viewer will open up automatically and I can instantly see where this information is present. So now I can be sure that the information that is in the work paper is correctly extracted from the supporting document. If I click on the total amount, you can see that I will jump to the corresponding page. The same applies for the authorization and for the quantity and also for mathematical accuracy. So with these cross-references, you will instantly see where this information is present in the document. But now, in case you want to leave review comments, there can also be a communication loop. So first you put a review comment without any cross-reference, then the preparer will come back with an action, with a question like, where can I find the corresponding document? But now you can also create these cross-references as a reviewer. For example, here under the authorization, we can see that a signature is present on that proposal. But how can we know that P.A. Smith is an authorized signatory within the company? Now, when we receive supporting documents from clients, what will happen from the preparer side is that they will import all of these documents into DataSnipper. So now, after that, we can also filter for these documents by using the document viewer here. On the left-hand side, we will see a drop-down menu, and here we can filter for the folders. First, we have the walkthrough documents. So now I will filter for those. So these will be all the documents that we receive from our client for this walkthrough procedure. If I click on the drop-down menu next to it, I will see all the documents. And right next to the document name, here we can see the number of snips that are placed over that document. Here we can see that 4 documents are not cross-referenced to this work paper, and one of these documents is the signature list. So in order to leave a review comment, now I can navigate to the DataSnipper ribbon after selecting the correct document, and I will leave an exception snip over the signature list. That way I'm leaving an audit trail also for the preparer, so the next time they open this work paper and click on my review comment, they will see that they need to check the signature list. Now, as Sangeeta already presented, we can override the cell content when we are placing the exception snip. So now I can just write here, check signature list for authorization. That way we can avoid the communication back and forth, because this document will be checked by the preparer. Now we can check the other cross-references. So again, if we click on each cell, we can see the corresponding document. Here we can see that the quantity is indeed inconsistent. The payment is validated. But still, as I mentioned before, here we have 3 documents that are not cross-referenced yet. One is the approved supplier list. So I will leave a review comment for the order confirmation, saying to check the supplier list. And for the payment authorization, I will leave a review comment over the control description and also over the approval document. To do that, first I will place an exception snip over the approval. And to cross-reference the other document as well, all I need to do is select the document itself, and I can place multiple snips within the same cell just by holding down the control button and just placing this snip. And now on the bottom right side, you can see that 2 snips belong to the same cell. So now from a reviewer's perspective, they will know that they still need to check these 2 documents for the payment authorization. So that's how you can easily review a document, a walkthrough procedure with DataSnipper, and how you can easily review comments with these cross-references. And before we jump into the next use case, let me pause for a moment to see if there are any questions.
We do have a great questions, Edwin, but I think we can address those at the end of the session, like during the Q&A time, because it's really a great questions.
Okay, then. Let's leave it to the end then and proceed to the next use case. So for the expense testing, the procedure is the same as for the walkthrough, but in case of a test of details procedure, just imagine that here we have a selection of 43 items and the preparer did all this watching manually. Now from a reviewer's perspective, in case of a selection of 43 items, it means that if you want to check every cell that is extracted from these supporting documents, you need to open 43 different invoices and 43 different bank statements. But since that work paper is created by DataSnipper, all you need to do is click on each of these cells. So you will be directed to the corresponding document, and you can easily verify if that information is actually correct or not. The same applies for the bank statement. So just by clicking through these items, you can instantly see the document that is cross-referenced here. Now I won't do it for all these 43 items, but my assumption is that I could finish the review for this in under 5 minutes. But if I need to open these documents one by one, I think even just opening the documents would take more than 5 minutes. And I didn't even check anything yet. So now, as a last part, let's check the unusual users testing. So here we can see the procedure that is prepared by Sangeeta. If I scroll down with the exception snips, I can already see the issues that were noted during the test work. Like here we have some segregation of duty issues. And if I take a closer look at the preparer part, I can see that there is a username called batch user, which sounds a bit odd. Probably this is automatic system posting, but just to stay on the safe side, I will leave a review note over the batch user, indicating to do some further investigation on that specific user to understand the accounting process of the company. So that's how easily you can review any work paper that is prepared by DataSnipper. Before we jump into version comparison, let me pause one more time to see if there are any questions.
There is one question, I think that you can answer now, Edwin. It says like, as you showed that we can add multiple snips to the same cell. Is it possible to add different types of snips to the same cell?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a great question, and unfortunately that is not possible. So within the same cell, you can only add the same snip types. So for example, I placed an exception snip over here, and as I showed before, if I want to add an additional snip, I need to hold down the control button. So now two snips belong to the same cell. Now if I want to do the same for validation snip, so now I'm holding down the control button again. You can see that it will switch back to the exception snip as we placed an exception snip previously to that cell. So if you want to include multiple snips within the same cell, be sure that you are using the same snip type.
Perfect. Thank you, Edwin.
You're very welcome. Any other questions that I need to address now?
There is one question that just came up. Is it possible to see all the comments left by the preparer without checking every cell?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And to get a list of all the comments, well, that is not possible in the document viewer. So my advice here would be to leave your manager review notes in one column. For example, here you can see that the use case is prepared in a way that we left one column for the manager review notes. And if you prepare your work papers that way as well, then the preparer can easily see where these review notes are present. A great question. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I think we can keep the remaining questions for the Q&A session.
All right. Okay, so that is how you can easily review a work paper if it's prepared by DataSnipper, but also as a reviewer, you have a lot more responsibility as well. For example, at the end of every audit, we are sending out the management representation letter, and we will get back the signed version. Now we never know if the signed version is actually the same as the one we sent out, but if you want to compare these two versions, now you have the option to do that. I will use a different Excel workbook for it, and here you can see that I have a draft MRL imported and also a signed version of the same document. Now if I want to compare these two versions, I can use the version compare function here on the DataSnipper ribbon. After opening it, the configuration is super easy. On the left-hand side, we need to select the old version, which will be the draft, and on the right-hand side, the new version, which will be the signed one. After we selected both versions, we can click on compare. And now a new window will appear. On the left-hand side, we will see the old version as we selected previously, and on the right-hand side, the new version. It feels like I'm just repeating myself, but let me share a new information. So right next to the scroll bar, you can see these red and green highlights. These are indications that something has changed over that part of the document. Now, if I scroll down a bit, you can see the same red and green highlights in the document itself. And again, these are the indication that that part of the document has changed. For example, this 14 is changed to 16. If I scroll further down, there are no changes over here. But here we can see that an entire page is missing from the signed version. And also there are some small changes if we scroll further down. And here we can see the signature on the bottom. So again, that way you can be sure that the signed version that you get back is actually consistent with the one that you sent out. So you can be sure that you have the same document, but also version compare can be used on several other use cases as well. For example, you can also import Excel workbooks to check what has changed compared to the previous version. You can even import financial statements. And if you want to create a work paper out of these changes, you can get all that data into Excel by just clicking on the Export to Sheet button. You can also add an additional column, like validated by audit team. That way you can be sure that all the changes that are made in the documents are actually audited by the team. So now these were all the use cases that I wanted to present. Before I hand it back to Hande, let me pause for one more time to see if there are any questions.
Yes, Edwin, it's the same question. Actually, they are requesting if you can repeat how to see all the comments left by the preparer, not the reviewer, but the preparer without checking every cell. We don't have that option, I guess, to see all the comments, right? They have to click on any flagging or any snips to go to that document.
Yes, so actually, I'm just thinking about a potential solution here. So is the question about the comments that are left within the document with the comment function?
Yes, by the preparer.
By the preparer. So that way, what I would do actually is to export all the documents. So for example, if I click on export, select all the documents, and if I export it with snips and comments, then I can import those documents back again and run a version compare on those documents. So I can see all the changes that are made, which will be the comments that are left by the preparer. So that's a potential workaround here. But other than that, unfortunately, we can't get a list of all the comments that are placed in the documents.
Yes, if required, maybe you can use validation or exception snip and include the comment as a customized content. So it still navigates you and you can just filter for all the comments left by the preparer. But other than that, as Edwin mentioned, currently we don't have an option, but I do know that our product design team is working on one of the feature where you can see all the list of comments within the documents that are inserted. Maybe, yeah, we can wait for that in the meantime. But Edwin, I do have one question before you pass it on to Hande, because it's related to the version compare. For document compare, both documents need to be PDF, or can one be Word and the other PDF?
Yes, that's a great question. And the file extension doesn't matter for version compare, because as soon as you import documents into DataSnipper, they will be converted into a PDF format. But if you are comparing a Word document to a PDF, just be sure that the size of the Word document is the same. So here on the bottom right side, you can see that the size of my Excel workbook is at 100%. So when you are importing a Word document, also be sure that you set it to 100%, because that way you are comparing the documents in the same size. But the short answer is you can use any file extensions for version compare.
Perfect. That's it. We can handle like the remaining questions later.
All right. Well, thank you. Then I'm handing it over to Handa.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. So now let's look at the value for partners. So for partners, they want to provide their teams with innovative solutions and avoid overly complex tools in the market. As you can see, DataSnipper is super easy to use. It's very intuitive. And additionally, DataSnipper's ROI is very clear in terms of time savings and quality. By providing up to 90% time savings, not only the overall costs are reduced, but the capacity of the audit teams are significantly improved. Partners can then focus on providing strategic insights, managing stakeholders, and creating an innovative work culture. Sangeeta will now take over to show DataSnipper value for partners.
Perfect. Thank you, Hande. In capacity as an engagement partner, we will have a dual responsibility, and it mostly overlap with the manager or senior manager role that Edwin presented, that are overseeing teams' work and also tackling complex work papers. DataSnipper significantly enhances both facets of role. As you understood from Edwin's presentation, how well DataSnipper can be incorporated in the review process, the cross-referencing capabilities streamline the process, making it effortless to pinpoint exceptions within the work paper. It provides a comprehensive snapshot of work paper completeness, highlighting both outstanding and completed elements. When it comes to preparing and assessing policies in accordance with IFRS standards, for example, the snipping features of DataSnipper become invaluable even for partner role. They enable to carry out my task with ease, fostering a structured documentation process. The cross-referencing capability to the source not only enhances the reliability of the professional judgment, but also provides a solid backup, ensuring a robust foundation for the evaluation process. In order to show the capabilities of the tool, let's explore a few examples. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Perfect. So yes, in this first example, where my reviewer, actually, they have sent me the list of misstatements, audit misstatements. And there is one misstatement that they have highlighted. Maybe this is the one we proposed. So as part of audit misstatement. And also, the one good thing with DataSnipper is the preparer or also the reviewer has linked or cross-referenced the adjustment to the respective work paper. So there are two adjustments that are making up this 8,000 misstatement that, or the audit adjustment that we just proposed to the client. And by just clicking on the snip, it automatically takes me to the source. And in this case, it's the operating expenses work paper. And if I zoom in as a partner, I can validate and review if these were already reviewed and approved or not. And as there are two snips created, as Edwin showed how to create multiple snips within the same cell, by just hovering over each snip, it will automatically take you to the respective source. So for instance, let's say you have two work paper, like which is coming up to this one adjustment, then the reviewer can link, or the preparer can link those two work papers to this cell. So as a partner, once I click on it, I do understand what is the breakdown of this adjustment that is linked back to the work paper, which is more interesting and important. And as a partner, if I review this adjustment and if I approve it, then I'm going to use a validation snip just somewhere in the document flagging that these adjustments are approved or agreed, because as a partner, you sign the auditor's report to make sure that the financial statement is free of misstatements. So it comes with the responsibility that we review the misstatements. And once we review it as a partner, then you can flag that with the help of validation snip. And if you want to further investigate, or if you want to raise any exceptions, you can use an exception snip. And the next part of the role is as a preparer, because as a partner, you'll also be the methodology expert. You also might tackle complex work paper. So in this example, I have now we have a most recent released IFRS standard that relates to COVID-19 impact. Let's say there is like certain assumptions that are provided by the client within a report. And as a partner, we have to review it to make sure it aligns with the standards. In order to do that, I've imported the document, and there are multiple ways in order to add my comment as a partner. So for instance, I'm going to first select TechSnip. Let's say I'm going to go through page number 7 and I review this going concern aspect and I want to leave any comments in related to this going concern aspect. So in order to do that, I can use TechSnip. I can just draw a snip even on the blank space and just paste my comment. And by clicking on OK, now within my work paper, I have the information or the comment that I posted, and it has been synced or linked to the respective page of that report. So this is one of the way where you can use TechSnip in order to post like also insert your review comment as a partner. The other way is, let's go to page 24, where we have the impairment of goodwill and indefinite life brands. And if after reviewing it, you validated it, but you want to add any review comments to this page, one more way is you can just use a validation snip. I'm just going to draw a snip. Either you can customize the content if you don't want to insert the comment, or I can just insert a comment, because in case if I need to communicate anything, any assumptions to client, or if I need to export this document and add it as part of our audit documentation tool, then with comments, it gives more clarity. So by just clicking on that, I have my comment posted, and within my work paper, if I just click on the validation snip, it automatically takes me to the page where the comment was inserted. So now, similarly, let's say there is something that is there is some assumption that is not in line with the IFRS standard. So let's say it's 20s. Let's go to page 27. So something to do with income tax. I have to flag this to the client because this is not as per the standard. So in order to flag it, I'm going to use an exception snip and drop a comment as well. So when you want to share this with the client, you can just export with all the snips and comments. Even though the client do not have DataSnipper installed, they can still look at these comments like as an expert, whatever you have provided for the assumptions that they came up within the report in relation to the IFRS, and then they can make the changes accordingly. So this, this actually helps even partner as in a preparer role. As a partner, you vouch your name on the auditor's report in contribution to audit quality. DataSnipper sets a high bar for quality assurance, backed by comprehensive cross-referencing within the Excel workbook, which leaves little room for doubt. So this is what I wanted to explain as part of the partner's role. But as I was mentioning before, the partner roles also mostly overlaps with the certain procedures that Edwin presented, where DataSnipper can be incorporated. Before passing on to Hande, I'm going to quickly pause for any questions that might need to be addressed at this stage. I'm sorry.
Yes, so there's just one question here. So when an Excel file with snips is shared with a person that doesn't have DataSnipper, how does the snips appear for them?
That's a good question. Let's try it now. And I have DataSnipper, but I'm going to show you how it looks. So while exporting, you can select the document. You can also select this function which says export with snips and comments. And if you click on OK, you have to choose a path where you would like to save. I'm going to save it in my desktop for now. Let me share this to sorry. Okay, perfect. I hope you're able to see it now. So this is the exported version. So you have a stamp or a sticker which says exported with DataSnipper. And all the snips and comments, for example, let's go to page 7. So this is the text snip that we just placed because it's empty. We just pasted in the empty cell. That's the reason why it is just the snip, not the comment. But in order to make sure it's more clarified, you can also insert the comment. But let's look at the page 24. Yeah, this is an example like how it looks also for those who don't have DataSnipper installed. They can see a green snip or a green sticker, and you can tell them that is validation snip, and they can also look at the comment and everything. So even though they don't have DataSnipper installed, they can still see these snips and comments that were inserted within the document, and this is how it looks.
Yes, and just to add to that, so if you send over the Excel workbook, then your client will be able to see the cell content, but not the cross-references. So it will look like a normal work paper. If you want to put the supporting documents behind it, as Sangeeta just now presented, you need to export those documents. But Rest of the questions, I think we can answer in the Q&A part.
Okay, perfect. Yes, back to you, Hande.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. So this has been super insightful. We will now wait for you guys to drop any questions that you might have. While you guys are doing it, I have some amazing news. So if you want to experience DataSnipper firsthand, you actually can now. You can start your 14-day free trial, install the package, try it out yourself. Or if you want to have a conversation with one of our someone from the sales team of DataSnipper, feel free to go to our website and book a demo. They would love to walk you through the tool. Thank you so much for your time. I will now leave the stage to Edwin and Sangeeta to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. So first we have a question about uploading the documents. So you can upload documents into DataSnipper by clicking on the Import Documents button on the top left corner. And that way you can navigate on your desktop, look for the right supporting data, and by double-clicking on it, it will be imported into DataSnipper. Now there is a question about how the patterns for reconciliation are created. I'm not sure if I understand this question fully. Sangeeta, maybe you can help me out here.
Yes, I think when they meant patterns of reconciliation, even actually, I'm quite not sure if it is related to the walkthrough where we actually reconciled all the documents with the amount and supplier. If that is the thing, then you can use search and snip, or you can also use document matching. Actually, if you have a sample or if you have the input already, like say, for instance, you have the amount of 100,000 and you want to reconcile that with the bank statement, bank confirmation, then you can just use that 100,000 as an input. And while you're doing document matching, you can create different folders like for bank statement, bank confirmation, and even the bank reconciliation report that you receive from client, and use document matching so that DataSnipper will look for this 100,000 within all the 3 documents and outputs the result. So this is the pattern of reconciliation when you want to use document matching. If you want to use manual snipping, then you can use search and snip functionality. But with search and snip, it will look for only exact matches. So in here and there, few tweaks, that's okay, but it still looks for exact matches. So yeah, this is what I understand, like in terms of patterns for reconciliations.
Yeah, just a small addition here. So when document matching is looking for results, it is looking for the combination of the input data. So if we have 5 different attributes as an input, document matching will look for the combination of these 5. So even if some attributes are the same for some of the selection, you will get accurate results as the combination of those attributes will be only present on one document, on one invoice, for example. Right, one question about, so if they change the comment or anything by another team member, then where the audit trail is available. So if you make changes in the work paper, this is an Excel workbook in the end. So what I would suggest to do here is to save your own copy before you send it back to the preparer, and maybe you can use version compare to check what has changed in the document.
Yes. For the next question, SMEs very often have manual invoicing or separate invoice generation. Is there a solution to upload this on DataSnipper? So if you're referring to like the invoices that you generate, even irrespective it is manually generated or even a separate from a system, you can still go ahead and import those documents to your Excel workbook with the import documents option. But if you're referring to a system which generates invoice linking to DataSnipper, we don't have that integration yet, where integration between the system which generates the invoice which can automatically be uploaded into the DataSnipper. We don't have that yet. But for now, you can, irrespective, even though it's a handwritten invoice, scanned invoice, an image, picture, poor, crushed invoice, anything, you can feel free to just import it to DataSnipper from the import documents icon.
Yeah, basically, as long as you can read it, DataSnipper can also read it. Right, so is there a way to separate the exceptions noted by the user making them? For example, those made by the preparer versus by the reviewer. So within the snip, you can differentiate who placed that snip. Maybe a nice workaround here is if you let your team know that always put their initials when they are creating an exception or a validation snip. So that way you know who placed that snip, and you can decide if it's a reviewer or a preparer.
Yes. And there is one question, I think that's related to the partner review. Should we only click on the blank part, or can we highlight the respective text? Yes, you can highlight the respective text. Like with the help of DataSnipper, you can highlight the respective text. But also one important point to note here is when you use DataSnipper, the same content will be automatically extracted to your Excel workbook, but you still have an option to customize that content as per your requirement. But in the exported version, the highlight will be on the text. So just to answer your question in simple way, it is possible to highlight the text part as well, and also insert your comment or customize the content within your Excel workbook.
Right, so the client has to go through every page to see the comments. Yes, that is correct. If you export the document, then the client needs to scroll through.
Yes, maybe Edwin, to add to it, in case if you just want the pages or the document with comments or snips, then you have an option within DataSnipper add-in to remove the other pages without any snips or without any comments. So once you remove those pages, within your Excel workbook, you just have those pages with comments and snips. So you can just export that. So in that way, you just have the document, like it, even though it's not complete, you just have it with the snips and comments, and not additional part.
Yeah, that's a great addition, and actually that answers the next question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the next question, so do snip documents increase the size of the Excel document? So yes, when you import documents into DataSnipper, it will increase the size of your Excel workbook. But if you click on the remove button, there you have a compress imported documents button as well, which will reduce the size of the supporting documents.
Yes.
Right. Seems like we only have 1 minute, so...
Yes. How do we scale up the use of DataSnipper to our practice? Any tips for accelerating its use? That's a very good question. If you want to start from the first step, then I would highly recommend you to reach out to us, like for any centralized, like if you're already a DataSnipper customer, if you already have DataSnipper, then please feel free to reach out to us for the webinars to attend the first important beginning part of DataSnipper. If you already know how to use it, and if you still want to, like you're curious to understand more, then I would navigate you to knowledge base. So within the DataSnipper add-in, there is a learn icon, and within the learn icon, there is a knowledge base article which you can go to. And within knowledge base article, you have different examples or different use cases for different practices. So feel free to go through it, because you have also 2 to 3 minutes video with the step-by-step procedures and everything. So I would say just explore it, and also feel free to attend our innovation sessions that happens every week to understand more about the advanced use cases and where you can incorporate DataSnipper within your practice.
And the last question, I think that's the best one to finish the webinar. So how do I check the pricing details of DataSnipper? As it is visible on the screen, you can just scan that QR code, start your 14-day trial, and also you will see the pricing details there. If you are a bigger firm, you can always reach out to our sales team to get a quotation.